That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, in this video, we're going to go through and talk about some wide receivers that you cannot have in your starting lineup. I mean, I don't want them in any of my starting lineups this week, whether that's based on the matchup, whether that's based on what we had with their usage in week one. We're going to go through, talk about each one of these wide receivers in depth. But before we do, I have a massive disclaimer that I have to put out here. So y'all know in the video this morning, I announced that we have hundreds of these flock hats. I'm not selling a single one. I don't want to sell them. I want to be giving them away for free on this channel for the people that are going down there, leaving comments, asking their questions. We'll do other types of giveaways as well for people that are hanging out in the live streams. But for now, the number one way that we are going to be doing these giveaways is every single day, I'm going to be choosing someone who left a comment, whether that's them going, Mason, should I be starting Brandon Aiyuk or Antonio Brown? Or if that's Mason, I'm just leaving a comment to be entered into the hat giveaway. Yeah, just go down there, leave those comments. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can as well. But the massive disclaimer that I have to give out is if you do win one of these flock hats and you decide to wear it out in public, you just have to be prepared for the looks that you are going to get. I don't know how many of y'all have been used to being the best looking person at the bar, the best looking person at the restaurant, the best looking person at the park. But as soon as you put on this hat, that is going to be you. And it's a completely different dynamic. I mean, I didn't really even experience this until I wore this hat over there to the gym. And it was a little concerning. I had to leave early based on how many people were just staring at me. I saw some girl like with a little drool coming out of the side of her mouth, and it made me uncomfortable. So that's a disclaimer. I would be a little careful wearing it out in public if you're not going to be used to that and you're not going to feel comfortable. Just want to get that disclaimer out there. But yeah, this will be fun. Let's go through, talk about these wide receivers. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to our live streams. And let's start it off with a wide receiver that I told you was a must-start option for us this past week in Robby Anderson. And with Robby Anderson, yes, we told thousands of people to put Robby Anderson into their starting lineups. And, you know, I'm the first person to admit when we say something dumb, and I could sit here and act like nothing dumb ever happened. I can sit here and say, oh, well, Robby Anderson, I mean, what? He gave you about 13 fantasy points this past week. That's not too bad. Don't be mad at me. Well, no, it was very, very stupid for me to tell you to start Robby Anderson. Us looking at this and just seeing that he had 3 targets, 1 reception, 57 yards, and a receiving touchdown. So Robby Anderson was 1 catch away from having 0 fantasy points in week 1. Now, one reason for this is Terrace Marshall was a wide receiver that I came out and I said, one of the reasons we really wanted to be starting Robby Anderson is we weren't expecting Terrace Marshall to have a very large role on this offense right away. While I really like the talent Terrace Marshall is, I thought that he would be someone that's expanding his role a little later on in the season. Well, Terrace Marshall looked good right away in week 1. He's going to be running routes. He's going to be getting targeted, playing that big slot position for the Carolina Panthers. And another thing is with Christian McCaffrey just going through and, I mean, getting about 9-10 targets a game, it will be a spot that it's really hard to rely on any of these wide receivers as someone that could have that elite level target share. So here with Robby Anderson, going up against the New Orleans Saints at the same time, I think this is going to be a very tough matchup. We just saw the Saints, I mean, shut down the Green Bay Packers. And I have said multiple times this week already that Saints and Green Bay Packers game, I don't want to be drawing too many conclusions from it, just because I think that halfway through that game, I mean, it was so out of hand that really just half the game you can't even look at from trying to identify trends with the usage of the Green Bay Packers offense. But one takeaway that we can have from that game that we had against Green Bay in New Orleans is this New Orleans Saints defense is not one that we want to be attacking in the slightest. So Robby Anderson coming off a performance where he only had 3 targets, now going and having a very tough matchup. And I know all of us want to just naturally assume that Marshawn Lattimore is going to stick it to DJ Moore because DJ Moore is definitely the wide receiver you prefer in fantasy. DJ Moore is definitely the guy that would be the favorite to lead this team in receptions, receiving yards, as well as targets. What we also have to understand is defensive coordinators don't necessarily view it that way, whereas they won't necessarily need to go and put their top cornerback on the opposing wide receiver that's going to be drawing the majority of the targets, what they need to really do is they need to put that cornerback on someone that's going to be playing that vertical threat in that offense. That's more so going to be the prototypical X wide receiver there. And I think that may be a little bit more Robby Anderson. I mean, if you do have DJ Moore playing the flanker role and you have Robby Anderson running routes a little deeper downfield, now I will say it's so hard to just go through and assume automatically that that's the role these two wide receivers will be playing in, because 1 week sample in 2021 isn't going to be able to draw a lot of conclusions for us. And at the same time, I mean, in 2020, like half the season, for the first half of the season, DJ Moore was the vertical wide receiver. For the second half of the season, Robby Anderson was that vertical guy. But if you're just looking at, I mean, how they did play this past week, I'd imagine that DJ Moore is a little bit more of the flanker. So I don't even know if DJ Moore is going to be drawing that matchup for Marshawn Lattimore. There's a small chance that that's also Robby Anderson, which makes him just a clear stay away. And now another wide receiver who I did not put in our must start wide receivers matchups, but we told a lot of people to start him in the live streams, was Brandon Aiyuk this past week. With Brandon Aiyuk, let's go through, let's look at the stat line. Okay, so Brandon Aiyuk had 0 touchdowns, 0 yards, 0 receptions, and I believe, 0 targets. I mean, Brandon Aiyuk did nothing this past week. And I am on record saying with Brandon Aiyuk, I think that the majority of the reason behind this is mainly centered around that hamstring injury that he was working his way back from. Now with Brandon Aiyuk, I understand that a lot of people want to say, well, Mason, I mean, he was fully clear to play. And yes, that is true. It is true that he was clear to play. And what is concerning is he was in there for punts. If he's in there for punts, what are they doing if he's not at 100% health? So that's also concerning, and we can acknowledge that. But with Brandon Aiyuk, I actually still want him neck and neck with Deebo Samuel. I think they're in the same exact tier for the rest of the season, and I still like Aiyuk for the rest of the year based on the talent profile that he has and how effective that he was in his rookie season. I just think that it's going to be so hard to listen to anything that Kyle Shanahan tells us with the health of Brandon Aiyuk, because we have already seen Kyle Shanahan before this NFL season. I mean, he does this every single year, but Kyle Shanahan is the master of the misdirection. He's the master of going out there and giving all these fake sources that he is going to go and select Mac Jones at the 3rd overall pick. Then all of a sudden, Las Vegas has Mac Jones as the favorite to go there. It's not even close, and you can get some crazy odds on Trey Lance. And then on NFL draft night, Trey Lance gets selected. Obviously, that's where he's going the entire time. I mean, with Aiyuk, he comes out, he tells us Aiyuk's 100% healthy. Then after the week, he goes, yeah, Aiyuk wasn't 100% healthy. He was just used as a decoy. So we can't trust anything he says coming into week 2. I think going up against Philadelphia, it's going to be a matchup where we're just going start Deebo Samuel with Brandon Aiyuk. Yes, you'll be putting him in your starting lineup later on in the season, but we want to be waiting until we at least see one spike week. Now, our next wide receiver will be Marvin Jones, coming off a very productive week where he had 9 targets, 5 receptions, 77 receiving yards, and a touchdown to go along with it. Now, if you are just box score scouting here, you're probably going to go, oh, Mason, are you sure I don't want to be putting Marvin Jones into our starting lineup? He's coming off a performance where he almost had 19 fantasy points. And the answer to that is yes. If you look at how he got that production, it was when this game was completely out of hand. I mean, at this point, in the 4th quarter, the Houston Texans had this game on lock, and at this point, they were just more so running plays to put up an entertaining football game, and nothing else mattered. So with Marvin Jones, he got lucky to even get there at the very end of this game in the 4th quarter. And to go along with this, I know 9 targets looks fantastic. 9 times out of 10, if you tell me that my wide receiver got 9 targets, I'm going to be over the moon. But the problem is that with Marvin Jones, while he got 9 targets, it happened in a game where Trevor Lawrence threw the ball over 50 times. So those 9 targets for Marvin Jones, it's not necessarily as meaningful as what you would actually have in a game where maybe Trevor Lawrence threw the balls 35 times. So I really want to be putting a discount on the quote unquote volume that Marvin Jones received. And at the same time, DJ Chark had 12 targets in week 1. And with DJ Chark, this was a wide receiver that was working his way back from injury. I mean, obviously with DJ Chark, he is going to continue to improve his chemistry, his timing with Trevor Lawrence. Urban Meyer is going to figure out how to implement DJ Chark to the best of his ability in this offense. If Urban Meyer does indeed have more than two brain cells. Not sure we can say that with confidence yet. But yeah, Marvin Jones, I think, is trending in the wrong direction, going up against Denver this week as well. I mean, I would definitely prefer starting both DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. I mean, that's what you kind of thought coming into the season as well. Now let's go over to a very exciting wide receiver who is exciting in week 1. And I mean, he's going to be exciting later on in the year as well. It's going to be Rondell Moore. And here with Rondell Moore, I mean, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 68 receiving yards, and he looked dynamic on a few of those plays. And that's kind of the wide receiver Rondell Moore is. We know here with Rondell Moore that he is one of the most athletic wide receivers in the entire NFL. And while, yes, a lot of people want to say that you're going to have to scheme him up plays, I actually think that Rondell Moore on his own right can generate enough separation to be successful at the NFL level. But the problem is with Rondell Moore, while I know the box score looks very promising for a week 1 rookie wide receiver, and it's a great week 1 performance for any rookie, we have to view it in the light of what the overall passing offense was this game. We have to view it in a light where Kyler Murray had 5 touchdowns, where Christian Kirk popped off. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins was that stud that you would expect. And one thing that I want to be putting out the warning flare for is if you look at AJ Green versus Rondell Moore in this offense, I know Rondell Moore was highly productive, and I will tell you right now, I do want Rondell Moore on my fantasy team way before I want AJ Green. Of course, that's the case. However, if you look at the amount of snaps that both of these wide receivers played, I mean, AJ Green just had a much larger role on this team where I don't necessarily think that we can see Rondell Moore as a consistent fantasy option right away. I'm just thinking about the volume and the raw amount of points that Kyler Murray actually put up this week. And if he put up that amount of yards, if he put up that amount of touchdowns, and Rondell Moore only scored 10.8 fantasy points, don't necessarily think this will be a spot that Rondell Moore is all of a sudden someone making it into your starting lineup. Surprised that I even really had to talk about this, but it was more so just we were getting questions every single night on the live stream about Rondell Moore. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here, that you're not wanting to put Rondell Moore in your lineup. Okay, so now our 5th wide receiver. Before we get to our honorable mentions, okay, I'm having to make a correction here. In the previous video where we're talking about our do not start wide receivers, I had Jalen Waddle on it. But as of this morning, Will Fuller has been ruled out against Buffalo due to a personal reason. So now, Jalen Waddle, honestly, I think maybe we should have included him in our must-start wide receiver video, because now without Will Fuller in this offense, you're looking at Jalen Waddle going into week 2 after just, I mean, being a key part of this Miami Dolphins passing attack this previous week. And you're going, okay, well, he's going to have a very similar role. Of course, Tua Tagovailoa was looking his way very often. And what I really like to see from Jalen Waddle is the fact that this was a wide receiver that came into the NFL, and of course he's talented in a multitude of different ways. But the main reason he got the pedigree that he did in the NFL draft, it was his speed and the ability to stretch the field and make sure that 2 safeties have to stay back when Waddle is there. Now, what I really like to see is he's not being utilized as Henry Ruggs is in Las Vegas. Instead, they're actually using Jalen Waddle more so in a role where he is also running routes closer to the line of scrimmage. This makes him draw 5 targets this past week, 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Now, he does have a very tough matchup, so it's not going to be a Jamar Chase. It's not going to be Devontae Smith. They're not going to be those similar situations where you're plugging and playing them regardless, because he is going up against Buffalo, and we just saw the Buffalo Bills put up a very respectable performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers, really being able to shut down that entire offense. Now, with that being said, Jalen Waddle did put up that previous performance against another very good defense in the New England Patriots. So Jalen Waddle would have initially been on our do not start wide receiver video, and instead of just putting out that video and maybe having some of y'all accidentally leave him out of your lineup, I wanted to put this correction in here. And yeah, make sure you're dropping a like for the extra work going into this video. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. And most importantly, leave that comment. Get entered into the giveaways to get our Fantasy Flock Network hats. Have hundreds of them, not selling any of them, giving them all away for free for the people that are supporting this channel. So just make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. Drop those likes, leave those comments, and of course, you will be entered and to win a hat. Now, some honorable mentions. We decided to throw them in this list because I don't want you to start them anyway, even if they're not in the top 5. First one is Darnell Mooney going up against Cincinnati. Now, we've had some people reaching out saying, oh, Mason, should we be going Darnell Mooney? It's a great matchup. Well, Darnell Mooney, y'all know I did not like him in fantasy drafts this year based on the overall quarterback play that he was going to have. And more importantly, the fact that he was playing alongside Allen Robinson, who we know historically is going to be someone that is soaking up 25% of his team's targets almost every single season. So Allen Robinson is just going to be taking so much away here. Also, I know, well, with Darnell Mooney, a lot of people want to project him to be this, I don't want to say elite talent, that's a poor choice of words, but I think a lot of people are just putting an emphasis on Darnell Mooney's few games last year where he was in prime time. And yes, he was able to generate separation. And if you had an accurate quarterback that was able to hit him deep downfield, Darnell Mooney would have had those splash plays. A lot of people have that vividness bias in their mind. They're going, Mason, you don't know. It's not showing up in the numbers. Darnell Mooney was open. I understand, guys. Yes, Darnell Mooney can generate some separation, but we have yet to see him be an efficient wide receiver in the NFL. And at the same time, he's playing alongside a volume hog in Allen Robinson. It's a good matchup, but Darnell Mooney, I didn't like him coming into fantasy drafts this year. I don't think you consider starting him until we have the Chicago Bears offense looking significantly better than it currently does. And now our last wide receiver on this list is going to be Brandon Cooks. And here with Brandon Cooks coming off a monstrous performance, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 132 receiving yards at the same time. Obviously, you love this for Brandon Cooks going forward, but the problem is this overall offense is just going to take such a massive step back. And also, they are going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL, best teams in the NFL, to be honest, in the Cleveland Browns. I am expecting that this game is not remotely close. I'm expecting that a lot of people who want to come tell me that I'm too low on the Houston Texans to look at what they did against the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 1. I'm expecting that those people are going to go hide under some rocks going into week 3 because Cleveland's going to win this game by multiple touchdowns. It's not even going to be close. You're going to see this overall offense with Tyrod Taylor significantly regress. I mean, they got lucky that they opened up the season against Urban Meyer, and where, yes, I actually did draft Brandon Cooks on a decent amount of best ball teams, just not someone that I think we can be viewing as an every week player for us. Now, thank you. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Of course, go down there, drop a comment with any questions you may have. When you drop that comment asking a start sit question, we're going and giving away these flock hats. And at the same time, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, because I can tell you right now, if I go to choose the winner for winning that comment section and we go to your YouTube profile and see that you are not subscribed to the channel, I'm going to be tossing that name, throwing it out of the window, and going to the next winner, because we will not be sending a hat to anybody who's not subscribed to the channel. And yeah, drop a like. I hope I see y'all in the live stream tonight, and have a great day.